Hi, Tamra. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Enjoying the slightly cooler weather today.
Yes, for sure. And thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed.
Of course.
I'm going to start with your bio.
Okay.
Tamra is an educational writer, author, and public speaker. She's taught reading and reading comprehension in various grades from K through 12, as well as college courses at Ivy Tech Community College. She has written over 750 nonfiction books for readers of all ages. And I've invited Tamra on for this interview because she has raised all four of her children to have agency over their development.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I would call that developmental sovereignty. And I did have a conference around that
Mm,
last October.
hmm.
And I think it's really important that we give children agency. On my website, it does say that our mission is to change the paradigm of childhood
Hmm.
so that the children are met by the adults that surround them with reverence
Hmm.
and eagerness to learn from them,
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
so tell me, you allowed all four of your children to have agency over their development and ideas for creation.
Yes.
What gave you the impetus to do so, especially since it was probably pretty radical in those times, right? Like
So
how
radical.
old, when would you have your first child? What year was that?
25, 1984.
Okay, right? Pretty radical. So what was
Yes.
the idea?
So radical, especially because I had an education degree.
Right.
So it wasn't just people will say, oh, you were a teacher. That must have really helped you. No, no, I think I had even more hurdles to get past in my thinking and my knowledge of children because of those years. Um, when I first started homeschooling my first child, I was the folders, textbooks. Today it's Monday at 1, so we're doing math. The whole very, very much a school at home more than anything else.
Right.
And in about 2 weeks, she was miserable, and so was I. And there was this literal moment of what am I doing wrong? This is supposed to be loving and kind and nurturing and bonding, and we're mad at each other. And so fortunately, oh so fortunately, I went to a conference. I went to a homeschooling conference. And I went to my very first lecture on the idea of unschooling, which
Mhm.
I had never even heard of at that point. And when I say light bulb over the head, literally, I reached out and grabbed my husband who was sitting next to me and went, "That's it." It was truly a light bulb moment of, we don't go, you're 1 year old, so you must learn to walk today. So we are going to move your feet in the ways you're supposed to do it and punish you if you do it wrong or different or
Right.
slow or anything else. We don't do that. We
Mhm.
shouldn't do that with anything that they're learning. And
Oh,
I
agreed.
changed everything from that day forward.
Incredible.
Yeah,
And
it was,
so, you had four children,
yes.
probably that had passions, all individual passions, all different ideas. How
Different
did you
learning
manage all of
styles was
that?
the biggie for me.
What?
Different learning
Oh,
style
yes.
was the big one for me because, I had two girls first. And they loved to write and they loved to read and they and then came the boys and they were like, do not make me hold a pen or pencil, please, and read to me, but I have no interest in learning to do it myself. I'm over here jumping off of something. So learning the different learning styles was really hard for me in the beginning to recognize they're telling me what they need. They're telling me how to teach them and how to guide them and what they need for me to do in response instead of my preconceived notions of what I think they should be doing or learning.
Right. Thank you so much for saying that
Yeah.
because I think that's not articulated enough in this space
Yes.
of unschooling and giving children agency over themselves because a common misconception is they'll never learn unless we teach them.
Yes. Yes.
And
If
that's
we don't
simply
sit down
not
and teach them
true.
phonics, they will be 65 years old and can't read, you know? And it's like, have you seen that ever evidenced in a way a child learns? No.
Well, we've not
My
really
daughter,
seen children learning outside of the educational system.
yes,
So, it's like you would have to be sort of like a far thinker to understand that, wait, we
yes,
never taught them how to talk. We never taught them how to walk. Why all of a
no,
sudden do we feel like we need to like fill their
yeah,
head,
yep.
right?
And if they don't learn to read the day they are six, for heaven's sakes, at the latest, then something must be wrong with them. No, no. Ask me the ages my children read.
I will do that. What were the ages when your children started to
The
read?
first one taught herself at 6. The second one learned at 12. The third one learned at 13. The fourth one learned at 5.
Now, don't you think that they learned to read because it was a necessity in something that they were passionate about?
Yes, they saw, we read to them, we read to ourselves. So they saw the beauty and the value and the help that reading could bring them. And then we waited and it kicked in with all four. And I will say that the ones who were 12 and 13 were reading above grade level for their age within a year.
Mhm.
And all four are voracious readers now.
Yeah, it's
So this
beautiful.
idea that this age means we must know this thing. I always equate it to, well, let's say you're 41 or 62 or whatever. Is there a list of what I should know how to do by the
Yeah,
time I'm 62? And am I stupid if I didn't learn it? Am I learning disabled if I didn't learn it? No. So having that pressure on children is just so damaging.
right, right. It's true. And when I look at the world that it is today, there are a lot of hurt children, right?
Mhm.
Hurt people. And there's a lot of
Yes,
hurt going around. And for
yes,
me, I truly believe it's because children aren't seen or heard. We
correct.
put them on this machine. The minute they're born,
Yes.
these are the milestones that they need to reach. If they don't need to
Hmm.
reach it, we need
Hmm.
to drug them. And then once they get to school, these are the milestones. And there's only one way to learn. There's only one way you're going to get to that math problem solution.
Yep.
There's only one way you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And also, by the way, don't listen to your body at all. You can only eat at this time. You can only go to the bathroom at this time.
Hmm. And for God's sakes, don't talk to anybody
And they do
unless
that
it's
for
your
18
permitted
years.
talking time.
Right, right. They do it for 17 years.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
No, yeah. I look at a lot of the things I've done over the parenting years and sometimes you go, okay, I wish I'd done that differently, or I could have
Totally.
done that sooner or later or better. Homeschooling has never for 1 second been something I thought, wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah, I also would love because I'm in this place of trying to build a better language.
Mm,
So I feel like there needs to be a different word from homeschooling
yes,
and unschooling, because when we are using those words, homeschooling and unschooling, we are trying to say we're doing something different from the perceived norm.
we're still saying school.
Right? But the norm is we're learning living beings. If
Hmm.
you wake up in the morning and your eyes are open, you walk outside, you're gonna learn something.
Yes.
So I hopefully within this in this time that we're interviewing and we're having this conversation, maybe we'll find a different word, self-directed learning. It's literally
Child-led
like
like child-led education is probably my favorite.
maybe, but it's literally like living learning.
Yeah, yeah.
So can you give us a picture of what it was like supporting the creativity and passions of four children and what were their age differences?
Okay, so the first one was born in 84, the next one in 90, 6 years later, the
Mhm.
next one 3 years later, and the next one 3 years later.
Okay.
So that was the age diff. Um, I often say that if you wanted to see what homeschooling looked like in our house, one child was sitting at the table with me while I was helping them with something they wanted to learn. While I'm doing that, one is under the table, probably building something with Legos or Bionicles. One is outside jumping around with dad, and the other one's probably in arms. So it just meant, I think what I had to learn to do was stop listening to experience and preconceived notions and all of that and look at my child and trust that they know what they need in that moment. So if you really need me to hold you right now, we don't need to look at this book. If you really want me to read it to you, even though you can read yourself, I'll read you the book. If you really need to color right now, we'll color. And just throwing out the, well, we've got to get this done by today, or you have these assignments. One of the things I developed when they got older was they started saying, all of them were very interested in, give us some goals for the month. Give us something to explore or to look at or to investigate. And so I would write out for each one of them, you know, for math, why don't you figure out how big this has to be to fit in the back of the car? They were all very, very real life examples. We're going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to give you $5 to buy whatever you want to buy, but it
Mhm.
has to be covered by the $5. So remember, there's tax. And that is 1,000 times better than here, do this workbook about money. And so just giving them real life stuff to do. And then they always have the option of number 42. Don't do any of this because you don't care. And if that's what they wanted, they never chose that,
Right.
but they could have.
Yeah.
I always gave them the option, and I always said, do as many as you want, do as few as you want. You might all of a sudden be doing one where I said, hey, investigate this constellation and go crazy on astronomy, and that you want to read a book and you want to watch a movie and you want to go to the observatory. I just let their loves and their passions decide what we're doing next.
That just sounds so refreshing and it makes me so happy. Now, because they had so much freedom, what
Yes,
are your kids doing now?
they are 40, 33, 31, and 28. Um, the 40-year-old is a social worker with homeless kids here in Portland and has won awards and just doing really well, married. The 33-year-old is a single mom by choice, and her 2-year-old is just over there playing in the backyard.
Yeah.
And she is a transcriptionist for deaf students all over the country. And before she was a mama, she was a world traveler. She's lived in like 8 different countries, and she does her job from wherever she goes. So it's really cool.
Yep.
My 31-year-old son is in healthcare and has worked as a caretaker and a care provider for about 5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
which has been really helpful for me because I had spinal fusion surgery in January and desperately needed a home healthcare
Yeah.
worker. And
Oh,
so
wonderful.
he has been here helping me.
Mhm.
And then my 28-year-old lives about 2 hours away, and he is in the banking business. He works for a credit union
Mhm.
and is looking to move to Montana in the fall.
Wonderful. That's so
So
exciting. And
all
everyone's
happy,
happy
healthy,
and
successful.
healthy. Yep. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, did any of them go to college for what they were doing?
The two boys have taken college classes. They
Okay,
haven't pursued a degree yet, but
great.
they were like, hey, I
They
wonder
don't
what
need
that's
one.
like.
Right. They don't need one.
So no. So
They're
they took
obviously
the
thriving and
classes
they
they
didn't
were
need a
interested
college
in.
degree.
Yeah, yeah. My older son has been very intrigued by sign language and has taken quite a few sign language courses and worked as a, lay freelance tra translator for deaf people here and there in
Wonderful.
Portland.
Oh, nice. So kind of following his sister's footsteps
Yep.
a little bit. All right, so you are an author of like a million books.
A million.
A million. And it's so interesting because a majority of your books are books that are great for K all the way to whatever, and they're all nonfiction and they're like learning books, despite the
Yeah,
fact that you're really not, pushing the whole traditional homeschooling route.
right, right.
So tell me how it came to be that you became an author. It was right after you had your first child?
hmm
Mm,
I always loved to write. I've loved to write since I was 5 years old and pretended I knew how to do cursive. Um, and I knew that whatever I grew up to do would have to involve writing because I loved it so much. The only thing I could think of to do was become an English teacher. And while that was a fun job and I enjoyed it, I got too frustrated with it because I was too constrained with what I could introduce and what I could say and what I could do and what textbooks I could use. And so when I became a mom for the first time, I'm like, okay, this is what I was meant to do. I'm meant to be a mom. I'm really happy being a mom. But after a while, I'm like, I miss writing. And I read fiction. I read a lot of fiction, but that's not where my love is. I'm the person who, when you gave me a research paper to do in high school, I was thrilled. I couldn't wait to go look that up and read about that. And that was before the internet. Read a book, interview a person, learn this, put it all together, make a paper. And so the first time I was asked, I started out working for educational companies and I wrote, and I still do, ACT, SAT, PSAT. I write a lot of material for those.
yeah.
My logo is I write the tests my children don't take. Uh,
I love that.
but and I just found that like all of a sudden being asked to write a book for second and third grade on fire ants was just like doing a research paper
Mhm.
because I got to do all the research and put it all together. I just had to change my audience. It was a younger group and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I took off.
Yeah.
And I still to this day, that is the main thing I do and just love, even though I sometimes have to do topics I really don't love.
Oh my gosh. That's so incredible because you've written what's really like 750
Yeah,
books.
yeah,
That's a lot of books, and it's for all age readers.
yep. All the way from pre-K Tell Me Why books
Mhm.
to I did the McGraw-Hill nursing school exams book, which is for college students. And I did all the
Yeah.
one on how to do the ELA questions and break them down and all
Right.
that. So, and everything in between.
Yeah, and you got to authoring because you were a mother and you felt like you wanted to make some money, but you didn't want to go to a job
I
because you
didn't
didn't
want to have
want
to
your
leave
kids.
the house. I
Right.
wanted to be with my kids.
Hmm. And so your solution was just to start writing.
Yep, yep. And we
And,
moved from Indiana to
mhm,
Oregon in 2001.
mhm.
When we moved, I was doing quite a good amount of writing, but my husband was really the money earner. I was working like after they went to bed at night and on that kind of thing. When we moved out here, because he was a chiropractor in Indiana and it is not translatable to Oregon, he could not work as a
Mhm.
chiropractor out here unless he went back to school for a couple of years. And that at the time was just so frustrating. So we sat down and had a talk and went, okay, we're going to swap. And you're going to mainly help with the kids and get them to the 4,000 play dates and groups and meetings and organizations and all the stuff they were in. And I'm going to start earning money. And that's when I really started going pushing. And it became um, a much bigger career at that point.
Amazing. That's incredible. And okay, going back to what you're saying about your husband taking over, let's talk a little bit about what a lot of people have concerns over when we talk about taking your child out of school and allowing them to have free agency over their development. A lot of people are like, well, what about socialization?
The number one question I'm asked. What about socialization? First of all, that is on the supposition that the socialization they get in public school is a good one. It isn't. It isn't. Yeah, I personally do not want to spend 7 hours of my day in a room with other 65-year-old women. I just don't.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure I'd make a few friends. We could talk about being grandmothers, but that's just not how I want to live my life. And neither do children. Neither children need to be around younger children, older children, children the same age, adults. Um, and that is the socialization they're meant to have. That is how they learn how to behave in public. That is how they learn to talk to other people.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, socialization is never, ever the problem you think it's going to be. It's not like you're going to say, I have chosen to homeschool. I'm going to go in my house now and lock all the doors and windows. You're never leaving. No, you leave all the time. My kids were in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and
Mhm.
4-H and play groups and everything you can possibly imagine. They saw other kids all the time, but they also saw other moms, other dads, grandparents, neighbors, people at the grocery store, you know?
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I get asked that a lot too, just because I talk about it so much. And
Yep.
yeah, it's true. We don't need to, the socialization in school is not real.
No,
I mean, there are children who love being in school for the social aspect, and that's
absolutely.
great too. I mean, I went to school, I loved it for the social aspect. So,
Mhm.
so Tamra, tell me, do you have any tips you'd like to share for people who might be homeschooling and feeling a little bit frustrated?
Yeah, first of all, pinpoint your frustration. Is it with you and your preconceived what you think these children should be doing? If so, you need to work on you, not change them. They are probably doing what's pretty normal. Second of all, if they have been in school and you've brought them home, expect it to be rough in the beginning. They have been told every day where to go, what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I brought you home. You get to spend the day with me. Have fun. And they may go, yeah, fun. Or they may go, where are my friends?
Mhm.
Where is my basketball team? Where is my so really look at what it is they're missing because almost anything they are missing, you can still give them.
Mhm.
You just have to give them in a different way. They miss playing basketball. Okay, go to the Y, go to somewhere, find a community basketball team. You can find some place for them to play. They miss their friends, have them over after school, have them over on the weekends. They can still see them.
Mhm.
Just look at what they're missing. I had one mom say, my daughter wants to go to school so badly. And I said, okay, do you know why? And she said, well, she loves all the folders and the pencils and I said, so go get her the folders and the pencils. There's no, they don't belong only to the school.
Mhm.
You can get any of it yourself and bring it home. And she'll probably love it for a while and then move on. But look at what it is they're struggling with.
Right.
And if you're frustrated, reach out. Don't try and go it alone.
Yeah.
Reach out to people who've done it. Join a support group.
Mhm.
Read some good books. Listen to a podcast. I mean, in today's world,
Ah,
there is help on any topic you could possibly want at your
so many,
fingertips.
so many. And when it comes to the unschooling part, one of the books that I read was Call of the Wild and Free. That's a
Mhm.
good one.
That's a good
Um,
one.
Radical Unschooling, Dana Martin. That's a good one.
Mhm.
You're authoring books. You're not offering counseling for anyone, are you?
Not
guidance,
currently, but hey, we could talk.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
people need help.
yeah. I mean, I went on 3 national book tours
Mm.
and I met a lot of parents. And the number one thing they do look for is someone who has been there, who has done it, and often who has come out the other side so they can say, look, it works. And they want to ask questions. They need help. And sometimes they can find it in the books they're looking for. And sometimes they just want to sit over a coffee with, you know, at a coffee shop and ask their questions.
Well, and that's the thing. It's because you can read a lot of books, but you also need to be able to really see your child and let go of all preconceived notions. And so, in that respect, sometimes it would be really nice to have a little bit of hand holding, someone that you can talk to directly, that could potentially listen to your story, listen to your concerns, and give you guidance based on your child and
Yes,
your relationship with your child.
yes,
Because I
yes.
think that's the hardest. It's kind of hard to take something from a book and apply it to
Yep.
your life.
Well, it's too generic often. You can say this is what most people do, or
Right.
this is what most 8-year-olds think, or whatever, but you have no idea. There's just too many differences out there.
And another
And
thing that I hear often is, what if my child doesn't have a passion? What if
that's
they're not
okay.
interested in anything except for just playing video games?
Oh, well, meet my son. Both of my sons were very into video games. And I am just old enough of the older generation that it drove me nuts because I'm like, but you're just shoot, shoot, jump, jump, kill, kill. That's what I call them.
Right.
And then I sat down with them and I'm like, you're having to communicate with people all over the place. And you have to be able to spell well and form sentences, or they won't understand what you're saying. You have to strategize. You have to organize things. You have to do so much more than what I was seeing just walking by and seeing jump, jump, shoot, shoot. Um, so take whatever they have a passion for, no matter if it's video games, fine. There are ways to pull other topics in.
Mm.
I talked to a lady once who her daughter, she said, my daughter loves horses. All she wants to talk and read and think about is horses. I can't get her to do math for anything. And I said, so talk about how many hands tall each horse is, and like how tall they are when they're little and how tall when they're grown up. Figure out the differences. Figure out how fast they go around the
Mhm.
racetrack. How fast do they have to go to win? I said, you can pull it in on anything. You can bring history in on horses. You
Yeah.
can bring anatomy in on horses. You just have to be able to think outside the box. Don't think, well, if it's not in the textbook, it probably doesn't. No, everything is applicable.
And look at how fast you pulled that out. That's amazing. This is the kind of support that I think parents could really use,
Mhm.
just that kind of support where like immediately somebody has a passion for something and you know exactly these are the boxes that it ticks.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is how you engage them. Just get into their world.
yes.
And
Get into
there's
their
so
world.
many
Don't try and
ways.
pull them into yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and an
It's not
adult way of
interesting
thinking
at
and
all.
perceiving and responding to the world is not a child's method.
Right. Right.
So, we have to remember that.
Yeah.
I so many times I hear parents going, "Stop acting like a child," and I'm like, "That's
What?
what they
No.
are."
No, we all need to start acting more like children.
Yes, yes. They're smarter than we are in a lot of ways.
So many ways. So many
Yeah.
ways. I mean, my daughter teaches me things all day long
Mm-hmm.
just by
How old
being
is she?
herself. She's 15.
Oh, great age. Yeah.
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 Yeah, a lot of self-reflection is going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Okay, so, I know of a homeschooled kid who was unschooled, actually. He wasn't homeschooled, he was unschooled, and
Okay.
he's an adult now. And he says that he hated it. And he would never wish that for his kid. And now that he has a kid, he's going to send his kid to school.
Mhm. Ow. Uh, I would look very closely at what he was like during those years, because he might be one of the kids, and they're out there and they're fine, who are very much into, I need structure. I want workbooks. I want grades. I want tests. And if you give them that, that is still unschooling, because you're following what they want and they need. And so if you took a kid who really thought that way and felt that way and put them in a more vague, we don't have to do anything unless you want to kind of thing, they would rebel, and they would probably grow up feeling, I didn't benefit from that. So
That makes sense.
making sure that you're fitting their wants and needs might mean going more structured and far more than you do with your other kids. I had a child who really loved workbooks, just loved them. And so that's what we did. We
Mhm.
did workbooks. The other two were like, don't even come near me with that. So we didn't do workbooks.
Right. So that just goes back to what you said about really tuning into your child
Yes,
and seeing
tuning
what
into their
they're
needs.
asking for.
And what they want and what they like. Because if they do like structure and you don't give it to them, that is just as bad as they don't need structure and you force them to have it.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of times, if you meet that need, okay, I'll give you structure, we'll do it that way. They may decide, I hate this, or they may thrive. They may thrive, but stop saying in your head, this is what this child needs, and listen to what your child is telling you they need.
Right. Right. And also be flexible,
Totally.
because just like our ideas change, our likes and dislikes change,
Yep.
that could happen too. And so just kind of flow with
Yep.
it.
Go with it
Yeah.
and expect it to change, to be honest with you. They're this kind of learner right now. We'll give it 6 months.
Yeah.
They may be a totally different learner, and that's normal and that's okay.
Right. Thank you.
You
That
bet.
was that was a good additional information to
Sure.
add in. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
This was really helpful
Good.
and informative.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add and talk about before we bounce off?
No other than just never try to go it alone. It's too hard. You're fighting against a tsunami of culture that is, you can't survive without help. And so listen to podcasts, read books, go to conferences, meet people, join support groups, whatever, because
Jump on Facebook.
jump on
There's all
Facebook. There
kinds
are
of
so many
homeschooling.
Facebook support groups out there and
Yeah.
places to answer your questions and everything. And trust in the same heart you trusted in when they were tiny and they were in your hands every day, and you had to make sure they made it to the end of the day without being hungry or scared or
Mhm.
alone. That same heart, that same gut can still keep guiding you. You just have to listen to it.
Yes. And also remember when they were babies, when you felt like you messed up or something, they're resilient.
Yeah,
Babies are resilient. Humans are resilient,
absolutely. You will
right?
mess up as a parent of any age child. My
Always.
adult kids, I
Right.
still mess up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
you know what? If you do mess up, apologize.
right.
Show
Apologies are
them it's
great.
human.
Yep.
It's
And
human. We
also,
we all make mistakes.
I think what matters most is that they're seen and they're heard.
Yes.
As long as they know they matter.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's okay. We can all make mistakes. They can make mistakes. We can make mistakes, but let them know that they matter. Always be on their side.
We love you and we'll love you no matter,
Yeah.
mistakes or not.
Right. Okay, so people can find your books only on Amazon.
Yes,
Okay, Amazon, and it's Tamra, or Tamra.
correct. If you
And I'm
spell
gonna
it the
have
wrong
that down
way,
at
you
the
can't
bottom
find
too.
them.
All right, thank you so much, Tamra.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to meet you, Belinda.